Hello, my name is James and I'm the Mayor of JamessTown. For the 14th day of Epic Games' free Christmas giveaway, we have Torchlight II, a top-down ARPG known for being surprisingly bright in its visuals in comparison to other staples in the genre, such as Diablo or Path of Exile. Originally developed by Runic Games and released on the 20th of September 2012, Torchlight 2 is the sequel to the original Torchlight, which initially was a lot more linear in comparison. Torchlight 2 though is thankfully considerably more open of an RPG. In terms of the actual gameplay, it's your typical action RPG that you'll be playing. You move your character around with left click, use spells and abilities with your hotbar, and pick up whatever loot that comes your way. As with any good ARPG, you want some bloody good loot to keep you going, and it's safe to say Torchlight 2 manages just that. The items that you can acquire are all chock full of different stats to boost your build. Plus, with the inclusions of sets, there's always something to work towards with your optimized build, which, if you're playing on the hardest difficulty setting, you're going to need, because the difficulty is no joke on that one. A nice extra to the game I've always enjoyed is the inclusion of a pet. These pets can help you in combat and even have a couple of different items that they can equip to boost their stats. The best parts about these pets though is that they have their own individual inventory. So, the second you become full of crap you want to sell, you can place it into their inventory and then send them back to town. At which point, all the items in their inventory will be sold and your pet will come back with a lovely sack of gold for you to collect. This means you can essentially keep progressing without ever needing to empty your inventory back at town. For those that want a long session of simple farming and grinding, this method really helps to keep it up. In Torchlight 2, you have a selection of 4 classes, each a typical archetype to some degree. You have the Ember Mage, Engineer, Berserker, and Hunter? I don't quite remember this one's name though. They each have their own complete set of unique weapons and abilities that the other class simply won't have, and their own charge meter. Depending on the class, once that meter is full, you'll be given a temporary buff. For example, with the Ember Mage, once they fulfill that meter, for 12 seconds all of their spells become more powerful and they don't cost a single cost of mana. Meaning actively working for that charge is very much worth the effort. There's definitely a lot of fun to be had with this game and its 4 unique classes, so there's plenty of build varieties to sink your teeth into if you're that kind of player. One thing I will say that I noticed a couple of times though was a sudden spike in the frame rate. At certain points the game would completely freeze for a split second. This happened more than just once, which was definitely a disappointing experience. It didn't typically do it in combat, but that doesn't mean it's excusable for happening somewhat regularly, which was a shame. In terms of the visuals, Torchlight 2 does look a tad dated at this point, which is to be expected. The game being just over 8 years old and having a sequel, it's no surprise that the game doesn't look as incredible as it once did. What keeps the game's visuals nice to look at, however, is thanks to the vibrancy of the colours, as well as the unique sort of cel shading style that improves the overall aesthetics of the game as a whole. I will admit, one aspect of the game I tend to appreciate with Torchlight 2 is the fact that it was never designed to be a dark ARPG just like Diablo 2 or Path of Exile, games that are well known for that particular setting. Don't get me wrong, they're both fantastic games and the setting of dark fantasy works incredibly well, but sometimes I want to see something a little different from the colour palette than just the red of blood from every single kill, of which the game does still have to be fair. Moving on to the story, Torchlight 2 hits the usual stereotype that ARPGs don't have the most engaging of stories. Honestly, I don't play them for the story, I'm here for that sweet loot, but it doesn't hurt to have a little something to keep you going. The story itself follows on from the original. The player character of the Alchemist became corrupted with the Ember Blight that was the source of corruption under the town of Torchlight from the first game. Onto Torchlight 2, the story pretty much just revolves around you going out of your way to try and defeat the new great evil of the world. There really isn't much else to the game's story, so don't be expecting the world's most engaged story with this one. Although I will say that the cutscenes that are produced by Clay Entertainment are really well done. I at least have to give them props for that. Moving on to the audio, first and foremost, let's talk about the music and how it isn't anything particularly outstanding. Honestly, it fulfills the fantasy motif that the game is going for, but it isn't all that memorable and definitely isn't something I'll be listening to once I'm done with the game. One great aspect of the audio, however, is definitely down to the punchy sound effects of spells and abilities. Every time I cast a spell, even the initial fireball spell the mage has, it had some nice weight to the sound and made the sound effects feel as if they were just right. In conclusion, Torchlight 2 is a great ARPG that fans of the genre definitely shouldn't miss out on. I enjoyed the original, but the second only manages to bring so much more to the table and improve the series in every which way. The loot system is great, the visuals, while dated, still have their own style that I can't help but enjoy, and the gameplay is addictive. A great aspect of the game I never even touched upon is the modding. With the game being 8 years old, there's 1,000,001 different mods to expand the life of the game at this point. I always enjoyed downloading pet mods so I could walk around with a creepy little spider. As a result of all of this, I'm going to have to give the game a traffic light score of green. Torchlight 2 is and always will be a fantastic ARPG. If you're looking for something as dark as Path of Exile or Diablo 2, you're going to be a little bit disappointed on that front, however. But if you can get on board with the brighter visuals, then you're going to have a great time with an action RPG that shouldn't be missed. Thanks to those of you that stuck around to the end. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe and all of that good stuff. Tomorrow is going to be the 15th and final day of the Epic Games' Christmas giveaway, with the last game supposedly going to be Jurassic World Evolution, so look forward to that and the review tomorrow. Until then though, I've been James, the Mayor of Jamestown, and I'm off. Goodbye.